Ready?
Wow.
Metallica!
Rock on.
So if you're 70 years old and you're a Metallica fan, let us know. Because we know you're out there, right? Right?
There's a lot of them in their 40s, too.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well, 50s, 60s, but I'm looking for the 70s. And then we'll bring them on the show and say, hey, look. If you're a Metallica fan.
And then people are like, wait a minute, what does Metallica have to do with IoT?
Well,
you know what? It's definitely,
there
probably they all need hearing aids if they're over 70. So there's a sensor angle there at some point.
Connected hearing.
Oh, that's so awesome. You're right. You're absolutely right. Right. And there is a there is a company called I was surprised. It's called Metallica, and I think they're like an IoT-ish kind of company. They're into industrial stuff, and I thought that they would have to maybe get a license to use the name or something, because Metallica is trademarked, isn't it? It should be.
It would have to be.
Yeah. So, anyway.
Actually, I thought, Leonard, that the song "Master of Puppets" should be devoted to Digital Twins episode.
Oh. This guy is witty. I'm telling you. That was a good one. Always making smart-ass remarks. It's awesome. Subtle, but very effective. But hey, welcome to IoT Coffee Talk. This is our, I think, is it our 42nd or 43rd? I think it's we've been doing this for almost a year straight every week. And we have a very special guest with us today, Vernon Turner. And wow, I don't know what to say about you other than you're like one of the dudes that invented the IoT with Rob Tiffany, right? I mean, that's what I hear.
No, the internet.
The internet. No, it was called the interweb back then.
Yeah. So does that mean I'm one of the Metallica guys? Did I fit that profile?
Yeah. Yes.
So goddamn old.
Yes.
Oh.
Yes. I mean, think about that. We're all going to be 80 one of these days listening to Metallica going, this is my favorite band ever. Right? And then you're going to be telling your grandkids this was the greatest band. And they were. It was a breakthrough when they won the Grammys. I remember crying. I did. I cried. You don't understand. I used to have long hair. I was one of those heavy metal dudes. Yes, I will send a picture. In fact, I might even
Leonard,
show it here.
The more you go down this path, the more I think of you as Wayne's World. I'm heading.
But you're spot on. This is Wayne's World of IoT. I mean, this is what it was in the beginning. For those of you who don't know, I mean, this is where we basically go down in the basement, turn on the whatever access cable television channel thing, and then we hack it, and then we go and broadcast our fun little show, right? So but it's wonderful to have you. Just a little bit of color to your background and our association with you, if you don't mind. I'll just point out that you and I are advisory board members of IoT Community. So for our listeners, if you're not a member, check them out, iotcommunity.net. It's just a really great practitioners-oriented organization with some of the leading thought leaders in the IoT space, as well as some of the leading companies getting involved and trying to make all this IoT stuff happen. So, but Vernon, why don't you take a moment to introduce yourself and share with us your wonderful background. It's actually pretty amazing.
Well, thank you, because at least you're one person that appreciates that, because my kids still think I'm just the ATM machine. So, it's like, hey, Dad. So if you see one of them, if you see one of them come through the door, it's I need money for Dunkin' Donuts. That's going to happen. That's going to happen. No, so I've been at this for a long time. I would argue that almost 18 years at IDC, and for 8 of those years, I followed very closely the IoT progress from M to M to IoT, and was part of this whole idea of looking and saying, what the hell is going on here once we start to collect these things? And at that time, Cisco put out this study that said it was $14 trillion worth of economic value would come from IoT. And if that doesn't wake you up in the morning thinking, well, I'm doing mainframes. What am I going to do here once mainframes are dead? I got this $14 trillion opportunity sitting out there. So I went down that path, and really haven't looked back. And the argument I make is that, to me, it's not about the connectivity. It's about following the crazy path that data will take you once you create that data. And you and I talked about it, and Rob and I have talked about it for a long time. And we've seen the hype cycle. We've seen frustration right now. I think there's a lot of frustration about what it is IoT is. Is it really something that you can put your hands around? But I stand back and go like, I'm a sports junkie. You can see.
Yeah, I can kind of tell.
Sorry, Rob. I know.
Oh man, it's like
and we can get into the discussion of is Tom Brady really the best quarterback ever?
Oh my gosh, the GOAT.
Oh.
But Stephanie, IoT and Deflategate, and it's a weird expression. How firm are your balls? I mean, that to me is one of the best best quotes that I can find or use for IoT. It's like, well, my ball's as big as it should be. We're talking about football, by the way. Just in case.
Well, speaking of Rob Tiffany, he has some big balls getting up and doing his little train wreck karaoke every week, and that takes guts.
It does.
Right?
It does.
But you gotta love it, right? So yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, so I have this passion for data, and professionally, when I think of what I want to look at right now, I look at industries where there's a lack of automation, where there's a growing lack of skills to do the job that surrounds the IoT world. And over the last 2 or 3 years, I've gravitated to the construction and engineering business, the mucky stuff of actually digging foundations and trying to figure out how do you build a skyscraper, and then flipping that into on the inside, what does that business space look like? And it's amazing. And the scary part is the number of skilled workers that we're churning out at vocational schools just isn't enough to get the job done. So so the skill shortage, there's a massive skill shortage, and we're trying to fill that gap as quickly as possible with IoT, believe it or not. And then the flip side, on my passionate side, I as I say, I'm a sports junkie, and I just love sports performance and where sports performance is going to take us. And I think there's a big difference. Just think of the audience. You're trying to do IoT for healthcare or smart cities or buildings, and it's very, very wake up in the morning. But if you talk about IoT and sports performance, it's like everybody is screaming passion about Formula One racing with telemetry. The performance of athletes, whether they're on steroids or not. No. I mean, how well they're performing on the field. I mean, so I look at that and say, in the daytime job, I'm very much calm, cool, collected. But then in the nighttime, I'm thinking, I'm just as crazy as everybody else in the stands, looking at how well the athlete is performing on the field. And for me, using the IoT is phenomenal. Just I get a kick out of it.
Yeah. No, that sounds really, really cool. And I like how you mentioned automation, because I think most folks who talk about IoT think about instrumenting things, collecting the data, analyzing the data, but it's only now, and I know that Dr. Tom of HPE, who is the chairman of the IoT community that I mentioned before, he'll agree in saying that control is a absolute huge element, and with control you start to talk about, like what you just said, the automation aspect, right? And then eventually, if you can get things intelligent enough and you have enough good data instead of all the miscellaneous useless data, which is a task, right? I mean, that's that upfront thing that you have to do. Then you can get to a certain degree of autonomy in operations. And so, and before our call here, or this chat that we're having, you mentioned some of the spaces that you're working in, the opportunities that you're working in, right?
Yeah. You know, when you think, everyone thinks about smart buildings, and I think again you talked about the instrumentation. I'm just going to throw everybody under the bus here and think that's snooze factor. I mean, that's hygiene. I mean, as long as you wash and brush your teeth every day, everyone's going to love you. As long as you have a building that's instrumented to say the lights are on, air conditioning's on, etc. But the part of it is what are the services and capabilities of that? Does that building now become alive? And if it becomes alive, what is it going to take? And to me, that's where the services piece, where I start like going, what would those services look like with a smart building? You know, how does it affect the efficiency of a central business district, CBD in some of these European cities? What does it do for transportation, getting people in and out of work? What does it do for things like meal services, food trucks, delivery, the whole 9 yards. So for me, it's yes, I think we're going to get to that point where the buildings are going to be connected. They're going to be LEED certified. Great. But that's not why you're going to come into a building, and you're going to have a different classification of people going into those buildings. You're going to have the lawyers, the more mundane people who want a steady workspace, versus you're going to have developers and creators who are going to step back and say, this space has to look and feel of how I work. Yeah. And I think that big gap, we're just starting to see some of that as people come back from COVID-19, and building managers and landlords are standing back and saying, how do I bring the people who are working from home back into a building that's not just safe, but actually reflects the way that they now want to work? Mm-hmm. And that's where I've been looking at this thing now for about a couple of years, and it's getting very, very interesting to see the preparation for that to happen.
No, wow.
No, that's an interesting topic, and I'd love to get your perspective around, things have changed so much. People are going back into the office, some are, but from a building management perspective, we're thinking about safety, and it's not just the building itself, it's the workspace and feeling secure and safe enough to go, maybe even changing the hours in which people come and go, and splitting that up. And so are you seeing anything new, or any major kind of movement that's pulling in some of the safety automation and safety protocols that might be interesting for some companies? I know there's a lot of folks that are talking about UV and everything else on lighting and keeping things clean and all that, but anything else that's on the horizon that you've seen?
Well, Stephanie, the good point is, first of all, the building has to be able to be connected, and there might be 80 billion square feet in the US, I think. But when you look at that, any building before 1980 is almost like a massive retrofit. It's hard to connect that stuff. So before you put the horse before the cart, you've got to figure out how fast can we connect those buildings. But the second part, to answer your question, the whole idea of an ecosystem of you, the tenant or the worker going into that building, isn't just about, well, is there a sensor to detect, how close am I, how many people in the elevator, which conference room can I use, am I actually allowed to be on that floor? No one's been in this conference room all day, so therefore, why am I spending time cleaning it in the evening, all that kind of stuff. I'm seeing very discrete pieces of that. I'm not seeing, this is an opportunity for anybody listening today. I'm not seeing a single solution driven by a platform that it aggregates all of those bits and pieces that say, this building, and this is what a landlord would love. This building gets a certain score for worker safety, comfort, whatever. I'm not seeing any of that. I'm seeing tactical things as you talk about, the UV lighting, humidifier, air purification. But again, I think we should have been doing that. We should be doing that before COVID-19 because there are studies by Harvard University public health school that talks about the level of CO2 in the building as the day moves, and how you have to make sure that level stays down, because believe it or not, our level of productivity diminishes the more the air quality becomes bad. But I'm Stephanie, I am not seeing a particular leader in this space that says here's a platform that will make sure that it integrates all those bits and pieces together easily. That's the one thing.
We need more plants and buildings.
I think it's just so challenging because there are a lot of companies that do very niche things for buildings, and they do them very well. But there's so many facets to a building, to a commercial building, to an MDU, to housing, right? So I think it's just challenging to bring those pieces together. But we have the technology, it's there. But even the older buildings that need to be retrofitted, there are solutions out there for that. And there's a lot of wireline, right, automation that can be taking place. We don't need to rely on mobile connectivity for a lot of this stuff. So it's just interesting to see how things are evolving. I've worked from home forever. So, I'm not ever going to go back into an office, but I still, think about the people that do go back in the office, and so many companies that are saying, you know what, we like you working from home. You're going to stay working from home. And that's changing too.
Yeah. Stephanie, from an economic model standpoint, it's really, really simple. It all comes down to the fact that a landlord sees you and me as a tenant for X number of years.
Yeah.
And so they know upfront what that revenue is going to be.
Right. Predictable.
They're not going to spend more than what they want to. What I'm going to get from you right away. So the smarts in this goes back to being a flexible workspace.
Yeah.
If the landlord can figure out how to make that workspace as productive as possible, as flexible as possible, then they can stand back and say, we know that Stephanie's going to be here for 18 months, but you know what, we can turn it over really quickly, get another tenant in. And this is where the ROI for IoT in the building space hasn't been properly worked out yet. Again, I'm not seeing anybody standing back saying, here's a financial model for IoT, plunking it into the building management system, and then from there, taking it up to the building landlord or owner.
Yeah, I'm gonna make a real quick comment, and then just let Marc over there, who's being really quiet, ask you a question, or share his perspective. But there's been so much focus on the landlord or the building owners and the management companies. And when I think about it, if they're going to invest in some of these ambitious IoT-enabled solutions, it's going to be for the next tenant, right? I mean, their mindset is really, look, if I'm already making dinero off of these guys and I got them locked in for 15 years under a commercial lease, why am I going to spend more money on the building? I mean, that's the practical reality. And then, But when you think about it, think about the investments that are made into a facility, especially for a tenant. There's going to be some basic stuff that obviously they're going to want to have provided from the building and the landlord. Those are things that they signed up for in their lease, but a lot of it's going to be TI, right? Tenant improvements. It's just I'm just responding to what you just said, and maybe what might be a disconnect, because we do have a lot of, IoT community. I'm on the building, the smart building COE. A lot of focus is on the landlord. But the reality is that most of the tactical things and even the more strategic things are probably things you have to position to the tenant. No, it's just like a bell that went off in my head, or a light bulb that went off in my head just now as you're speaking. So anyways, I just wanted to respond to the very cool thing that you said. So Marc, I'm going to shut up, and then now you can say whatever you want in your Spanish Arnold Schwarzenegger voice.
No, I think that in the US, this market is much more advanced than in Europe. I haven't seen a lot of initiatives in Europe that are successful. I have been working in a lot of different initiatives in the smart home, but I have seen too many verticals that are not interconnected, and that's pretty bad. For example, one scenario that could be really positive, and I'm not sure about that, is that Airbnb do something on the connected home. So that would be like maybe the trigger. So maybe there is a killer application that makes sense for them. On the other hand, I'm starting to see, for example, but that's maybe related, maybe not, but like Amazon is introducing like a lot of different technologies, but I'm not. So from the technical point of view, that's easy, introduce those technologies. I need to see how these translate into like the business point of view, or into
the ROI.
A real ROI, or actually people using them, right? Like
no, you know what? It's weird because
they kill a lot of home projects, right? So I still haven't seen.
I haven't seen much. I think the only thing that has been on the forefront is the energy piece of it, and the HVAC piece is the efficiency and the automation there. My dad's in the commercial HVAC space, and they were doing this way for so long, but he said the improvements of not only the equipment and the technology, but the tracking and the sensors within the equipment and the hardware, that's come a long, long way. And a lot of that is just given. It's already included. It's not something that, residential customers they're paying, they don't realize they're paying more for. So it's just something that comes along with the automation of the equipment and the hardware already. It's the services that they're adding on top of that for consumers, especially the energy sector, that's given them a little bit more visibility about their usage and their habits and some of the things that are going on there. But outside of energy and HVAC, and maybe even surveillance, right? Surveillance. Other than that,
surveillance, lighting.
Lighting.
Yeah.
But lighting is not. It's just not too exciting.
Yeah, been beating their heads, bashing
ventilation,
their over
thermostat.
Yeah.
But I don't know if it's HVAC or not at home. But there are too many verticals.
It's the smart last mile it's the ducting, and even if you look at a commercial space, office space, when they do the TI, they might tear out some of the ducting and redo the ducting. Maybe the big business is having smart ducting, because just having instrumented and monitored HVAC equipment in the basement doesn't solve a lot of the problems that we're trying to promise with IoT, which is lower energy bills, right? And so let's say that you're able to intelligently direct the cold air or the hot air based on the specific room that needs it because it's occupied, that's a solution. But right now, you have a HVAC system that has to flood an entire 10,000 square or 50,000 square foot space just in a way.
So Leonard, this is a question for Stephanie. Based on what you said about your dad, this is almost like an unbashful or unashamed plug for one of my customers that I did some work for. Service Channel is a company that aggregates facilities management, and I talked at one of their events, and I asked a couple of people at lunchtime round table. I said, do you regard HVAC as smart IoT? This is like 2 years ago. I was definitely an alien from Mars at that table. That they would not use the word IoT in that discussion at all. So I think there's a massive disconnect about what we in this in the clubhouse think about IoT and what the real world is standing back saying. Yeah. And remember I said earlier, it's hygiene. It's like it happens. And I want to take that a little step further to what Marc was saying about Europe. I think we in the US are again in a vacuum because I look at the legislation for energy consumption of buildings in Europe and what's going to happen by 2025, 2030. It's going to drive a lot of this idea that these buildings, the plumbing infrastructure piece of it is going to have to be smart. But there's nothing beyond that. Again, this is why we're having this chat this morning. There's nothing beyond that someone said, I got the data. Now I'll be able to do some services. And I see this big disconnect in between what Europe is trying to do, whether it be in the smart buildings or whether it be the future of EVs versus internal combustion engines, and what the US is doing, just because we're a big market. I think we're behind the rest of the world in some of this stuff, just because we think we're so big. I think other regions of the world are moving much faster than us.
Wow.
Do you think it's going to come down to the fact that big companies like GM and Ford and all of these are making their announcements, and maybe other industries and other companies will make their announcements around their sustainability goals, around their energy efficiency goals, and things like that will push us to that next level. Just like what happened with Walmart and RFID, they were requiring their suppliers to be, to comply, to join in on that technology and that change. You think that we may see that be a factor down the road? Because it seems like we are much more reactive than we are proactive. And then we end up having to spend a lot of money to respond.
So, I feel like Rain Man here because there's numbers in my head. A little bit of digression here on the subject for buildings, but to Stephanie, to your comment about GM and Ford. So GM and Ford just announced about less than a month ago, that they're both going to spend $28 billion each on electric vehicle production. Add that to Volkswagen's $80 billion for them. So now you got about 140, whatever it is, I can't do the math. $140 billion is going to be spent on EV production between now and 2030. So if we're here in the US saying it has to be gasoline, it has to be oil, we're going to end up, this is disruptive innovation. I think Michael Porter would tell you that if you end up over-serving your most demanding customer, you end up with a market of one. So here's where I'm going with this. Are we going to end up in the US, the only market where domestic cars will be sold? And because everybody else has made that shift, rapid shift from internal combustion engines to gasoline.
No, EVs. Cuba. They still have the cars.
Oh, yeah. Hey, Rob. He's on. Now I'm going to give both of you guys a bucket of poo-poo, and you guys can start throwing stuff at each other.
What the hell is this? Wait a second. What is this Patriots crap?
Clubhouse. Nobody can hear you.
What does it mean?
Hey, you're not on Clubhouse. Oh, no, he is on. Yeah, you're on mute, dude. No bueno. You're on mute.
And now I am not muted.
So now you're bueno.
Go Seahawks.
It's so easy. easy. Russell Wilson has got one ring. Is that what it is?
Oh, let me go get some lime and salt.
I was really disappointed this morning to read that we are not putting the franchise tag on our running back, Chris Carson. And so he's going to be a free agent. Man, it hasn't been the same without Marshawn Lynch. And obviously we don't have an offensive line to protect Russ. So it's tough.
Okay. Now, all right.
Really,
Yeah, Vernon, you're mean. You're basically,
I'm terrible.
yeah. I mean, you're rubbing it in. You're very, very big.
He's doing what he should be doing.
So next time you're on, Rob is not going to forget. I doubt it.
That's what the show is about. This show is like you're watching ESPN Sports Center. It's irreverent. We're talking about some serious shit here, okay?
Well, my only fear is that I'm going to suffer for 20 years now. I'm going to suffer the doldrums that the Cowboys, the Seattle Seahawks, that everybody else has suffered now that the Patriots run is over.
You'll feel like the Houston.
I'm going to end up having blacked out TV on Sunday because not enough fans in the stadium.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's tough, man. You're going to have to move to Tampa Bay
or get ESPN Plus.
I didn't even know who the Buccaneers were.
Oh my God!
Oh, no way.
And I know most NFL teams, but they were just insignificant on my list. But now they're not.
They actually have a pirate ship at their stadium.
Well, it's not as cool as in Arizona where you can hang out in the pool and watch baseball.
That's kind of cool. That's
really
true.
Cool.
I do like that. I do like that.
Yeah.
I'm going to be in Arizona soon for spring break.
Well, you need to go to a game.
You're right. Absolutely.
Yeah.
I got to get out of the cold, get to the sun, the desert. So what are you guys talking about?
We were talking about smart spaces,
not so smart
buildings, and how they're not so smart, and why, after all these years, IoT still is not really, making a dent in the problem.
Now, we were talking about U.S. versus Europe as well. The changes in the sustainability and energy stuff.
Here's my take on smart spaces. All my friends who are in the smart city world, as soon as that whole thing completely failed, they totally pivoted and started calling it smart spaces, because I knew people all over and they immediately said, oh no, we're smart spaces. We're not buildings. We're not. Yeah. I don't know if they were just. I don't know if
sales went. They went like these, like these.
No, it stayed like this. It's still.
But wait a minute. The U.S. government's about to put together this massive infrastructure bill, so we might have some funds ready for those smart infrastructure.
Is that part of the COVID bill?
It's it's on top of that.
On top of the 1.9 trillion, we're going to have this other thing? Okay.
We're just going to give about 10 trillion to our kids.
We're going to hire Vernon to plan out the whole rebuilding of the U.S.
Yes.
Bring it on.
Yes.
Bring it on.
Yes.
Roads, bridges,
I might end up being that 7-year-old Metallica fan you're looking for.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. You're going to be the smart space czar. For the United States. For Estados Unidos.
New title.
Yeah.
And in the same vein, he's going to save smart cities, right?
Well, he's going to create smart cities.
Yeah.
We don't have any smart cities to save just yet.
Yeah, that's right.
Lots of cities try to, in their marketing brochure, say, "Oh, yeah, we're smart."
Hey, what about Barcelona?
What about
Don't shake your head.
What about Bandera, Texas?
Bandera.
Cowboy capital of the world.
Ooh.
It's pretty smart.
It is.
I think the only true smart cities are the ghost cities that have been built in China. Greenfield, smart from the very beginning.
Fiber everywhere in the
because when you're starting fresh and you get to build a whole new thing and you have unlimited money, then that's when you. But it's just like industrial IoT. It's hard because it's old things, and so you're having to retrofit old things, and it just makes it so difficult.
It wasn't like a few years ago. I was approached by some of the technology leaders at American Airlines in the Dallas area, and they were building a brand new campus north of Plano, And that was their goal, is we want to look at every asset, every infrastructure piece from the ground up. And when we build, we want all of the smart technology to be built from the ground up, from parking to the building itself to, all of the other features that were going to be around that campus. And so it sounds so simple, but think about the cost though involved. Yeah. But they were able to pick and choose. Okay, we're not going to be able to do everything, but we're going to pick and choose some things.
Wasn't that the thing put together by Ross Perot's son?
Maybe.
Like
I didn't go to the next level. I had like multiple meetings, and it fizzled out.
Okay.
I don't know what they did.
So, Marc, you're not going to defend Barcelona as being a smart city?
Oh. Especially the subway system.
Actually,
come on, man.
Was a marketing campaign like
really?
10 years ago, right? By the
That's how you make things smart, is through marketing.
Yeah.
You just tell people it's smart.
Pretty much.
It's not real, people.
I mean,
we are the 5G city.
The word smart annoys me a lot. I mean, what does it mean, smart?
Smart water? The word.
Smart.
I think you said smart water.
That's marketing.
I mean, change smart for whatever, like poor, like ugly, Chinese, African.
You need to change your technology architecture to marketecture. And then you'll be okay.
Wait, what did you have before you got on the show? Good meeting?
I've been in back-to-back meetings since 4:30 this morning.
Ow. Okay, yes. That explains it.
And about 2
we need drug tests.
About 2 gallon coffee.
Yeah.
You need some of that. Namaste.
Oh, namaste, man.
Yeah, I like that. Well, I mean, it's the old thing. Obviously, I work for a Swedish company, and so I have all these Central European time meetings, right?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It sucks.
Yeah. That's so funny. So, yeah.
This isn't going to be a political statement, but I think it's very pertinent to the smart city thing.
Sure.
Why it fails. If we can't even agree on how to have a mask mandate.
Yeah.
Then the fear of what that brings. Then the idea of having the ability to share all your livelihood data about where you are in a smart city. Yeah. It's never going to happen. It's literally never going to happen.
Well,
so instead of scaling back and saying this is going to be called a smart city, I've been to Melbourne and they had won the most livable city like 4 years in a row, and I spent a little bit of time there trying to figure out what is it that they can do really well. And ironically, it's transportation. From the minute you roll out of bed to the minute you go back home again, you can. This is going back 5 or 6 years ago. You could easily get from A to B with minimal weight. Always been able to get a seat. It wasn't as if Big Brother was watching you. It was just that things were integrated. Yeah. So I think Rob, you were you were talking about these cities that the ghost cities in China. I have to think that places like Singapore have probably got some of their act together when it comes to coordinating that stuff. But now remember that's a little bit of a nanny state as well. Yeah. Sorry, all my friends in Singapore. But I think that's the issue is that I think our expectations was like, oh, this is all going to work together. It's going to be the Jetsons, blah, blah, blah. Like,
I think the reason that Melbourne is the most livable city is because they make really good drinks there. They have a lot of great bars.
You need that in your life.
No, I've got relatives that live in Melbourne. I've been there a few times, and I think it's a beautiful city. I love it.
Rob, think about this. When
like San Diego.
Yeah.
But in Melbourne, if you're playing cricket for 5 days, it's a great excuse to drink a lot of beer.
Yes.
Because you're always watching the same game.
Yes.
Yeah. In the middle of the afternoon, you have this tea break where you're very civilized. You come out, you drink tea, and you go back to then drinking more beer. I mean that to me is a very civilized.
That's a smart space, people.
Seriously.
Yeah. I digress.
It's okay. We digress a lot.
Yeah. And you talk about a lot about football, well, American football, but what about stadiums? Are they smart in the US?
No.
Smarter.
Well, I think it's a good question for the 5G guys, because every time I look at Verizon and NFL, it's all about 5G, the experience inside the stadium, and I'm thinking, I'm not there yet.
I think many of the stadiums actually illustrate the smartest things we have in America, and the reason is because all those football team owners held their cities hostage in order to get brand new stadiums built, and they spent billions of dollars. And when they built brand new shiny stadiums, you're right, everything is high tech. They put in Wi-Fi everywhere.
Yeah, it's greenfield.
Yeah, it's greenfield. And so, probably the most state-of-the-art things in America are football stadiums, which, of course, that's our shrine. That's our gladiator thing, right, for America. So, of course, it's the best.
I did a tour at Cowboy Stadium. This has got 4 or 5 years ago that AT&T did at one of their analyst events, and they took us behind the scenes. And it's just amazing.
It is amazing.
You're just like, this is before we were talking about what we're talking about. They're just so far advanced. But I think it's funny because I go to an Aggie game and I can't even get a text out. And,
right.
I don't know if all the college stadiums have caught on, but these NFL stadiums are insane.
Yeah, absolutely. That new SoFi Stadium in LA is mind-boggling.
Oh, really? Wow.
It is so cool. And I've seen the new stadium in Vegas. Kind of the black thing, kind of looks like the Death Star, kind of. I think having the NFL in Vegas is the best idea ever. Just stay there and keep gambling.
There you go. Yeah.
Excellent.
I can't think of how I can't think how you keep rookies in Vegas, to live by the curfew rules.
No,
you must have to have a guard outside every door. So get back in.
Gambling, the strip clubs. No.
Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Hey, Leonard, I have to jump, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay.
But
it was wonderful having you. And
I love it.
You guys couldn't talk smack earlier.
It's good seeing you, Vernon. Late. Yeah. I haven't seen you. We haven't seen each other in person in a long time.
Yeah.
I think we're at the Ericsson D. When Leonard, you and I last met, it was at the Ericsson.
D15,
Santa Clara.
Yeah. That was a good event. Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. Yeah. I haven't been there in a while either. Yeah.
Yeah. I think I almost dumped a glass of wine on a bunch of people.
That's what you always do.
Yeah. I try my best.
Excellent.
I try my best.
It's a waste of good wine.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
Okay. I love you and leave you.
Hey, it's good seeing you, bro.
Hey, thank you so much for jumping on.
Okay.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, bye.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Bye.
Are we still chatting?
Yeah, well, we can. We have a few people on Clubhouse, but we can probably wrap it up, right?
Yeah.
So,
what song did you do at the beginning?
Oh, I did Master of Puppets, Metallica.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you'll have to listen back.
It was that or La Bamba, but we needed you for the
Bamba.
vocals for La Bamba.
Yeah.
Oh.
No, I tried, but I didn't have my vocals on this morning. It was just horrible.
Well,
not like you. You're always on, dude. You're always on.
I really embarrassed myself. I just did not have my act together last time.
Oh God!
But if I'd been able to do something like Axl Rose or something, nothing lasts forever.
Oh, November Rain. Oh yeah. We can make that happen. Brother.
You got to do the sway though.
Yeah.
So let me give you as we wrap up. Let me give you a quick story about Axl Rose and submarines.
Okay.
Because I know. So
you've got to tie those pieces together.
I'm going to tie it all together. So when you are a newbie person and you first go on your first submarine, and so you're at the bottom rung of the world, right? And they make you do what they call mess cranking for like 60 days. So what that means is you are washing dishes and cleaning, scrubbing the decks in the mess hall where everybody eats on the submarine. And so that's pretty typical. And so your first 60 days, you're a nobody and you have to go through that misery. Well, I remember when I'm in there just washing dishes and I'm with this other guy, and I swear to God, he sounded just like Axl Rose. And so he'd be in there going, you know where you are? You're in the And he sounded just like him. And I remember our executive officer started calling him Axl. And so it was like, hey, petty officer Axl.
Oh, that's hilarious.
Yeah, so there's your submarine Guns N' Roses tie-in, folks. You're welcome.
Love it.
That's
Love it.
amazing. Yeah.
All right, Leonard, and I'd like for you to maybe post at the end of this video a picture of you with the long hair, please.
Oh, okay. I will.
And anybody else who has the long hair, we already know Marc does. The ponytail as well.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, so for all of you who've been listening in, you know, if you didn't watch the whole episode or didn't get to have the chance to listen to this whole thing, check us out at www.iotcoffeetalk.com. Yep, down here.
Subscribe.
And subscribe, like, squash that, or squish, or squash, or whatever, the like button. And we will see you next week, right? With another special guest. We don't know who that person is, but we'll
Spring
figure
break.
it out.
They'll be special.
Yeah, it'll be so special.
Yes.
All right, well, take care. We're going to start the Clubhouse session, right, for anybody who wants to come up on stage. So thanks, and we'll see you next week. All right, take care.
Bye.
Adios. Bye.